Route 616, your home for all things Marvel main continuity. Hello, everybody. This is Route 616, episode 42. We have Dan back again. That old fucker. I really don't have anything creative. I don't have any creative thing to say. I didn't think of anything, so.
He's suffering, giant man. He's suffering enough.
That's fair enough. I mean, we can also mention the Premier League, but no need to poke at that horse or anything.
Thank you, Mr. Relegation.
I'm not getting into that because we needed to use Brentford as a slump buster.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, Bill is here once again. We have the whole crew this week, which is always lovely.
And do you guys remember how last week every story we covered was exciting and had, like, important events happening that advances the whole Marvel universe?
No.
Did you like that?
No.
Because you're not getting it again.
That's right.
We made sure Dan was back for the shittier week. So.
That's really sweet of you, by the way. Thank you. Fuck you very much.
Hey, to be honest with our audience, it was just going to be me and Bill again probably this week, but you offered to make sure you could be here, so.
Yeah, I did. I don't
we
know
were
why.
both complaining about how terrible that story was, so this is really all on you.
No, it's not.
I'm starting to think you're also a mess.
No, you guys normally freaking do this on Fridays. I just told you I was off on Thursday and I had to work Friday, so you guys decided to flip it over to Thursday. So don't put this on me.
Don't listen to him.
No, you
He's
bloody wanker.
Don't listen to him.
You freaking wanker. You were not putting this on me.
Says the person who voluntarily logged into this podcast recording session.
As opposed to the people voluntarily logging in to watch it. Oh, none of them.
Well, at least you exist.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
And I just absolutely buried the, 3 people that actually watched this.
Yeah, the 3 of us. So, who goes first?
Ryan did good stuff for themselves, so it's Ryan.
I guess we'll run down what we're covering today, since a lot of you probably don't know.
I'll eat my pizza.
We're going to cover a couple Surge and Furious first with issues 11 and 12, and we're going to jump right into the best comic of the week with Tales to Astonish number 61. Journey of the Mystery will then take us all the way home as we get issues 110 and 111. The A stories come first together, and then we get the B stories together for a couple of the Tales of Asgard.
Yeah, at this point, there's nothing non-Thor related in Journey anymore, so it's just straight A and B stories.
Yeah. So, to start us off this week, we have Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, issue number 11. This one is titled The Crackdown of Captain Flint. This is, of course, Stan Lee writing, but this is not Jack Kirby on art this time. This is Dick Ayers. George Russo's is on inks. Cover art is by Jack Kirby and Chick Stone. Letters by Artie Simic. This is an August 1964 release. A 21-page story, and off I go. Of course, using the Marvel database, as we all have fallen into the habit of. And here we go. Holy shit, the Salon synopsis. Captain Sam Sawyer tells Sergeant Nick Fury that he will be training other commandos for 2 weeks. As in, Sawyer will be training more other commandos for 2 weeks. Sawyer's replacement, Captain Flint, arrives and makes his presence known by ordering the entire camp to assemble. The Howling Commandos are on the infiltration course and missed the roll call.
Commandos, assemble.
No.
I didn't feel anything.
Sergeant Bull McGivney drives out to the course and tells Fury to report as is. Look at you, says Flint. You're a disgrace to that uniform. Did you ever hear of shaving cream? Well, use it. Okay.
Oh, the person who wrote this is going all in. They're actually quoting the comic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Ooh.
That was the first paragraph down. Several days later, Flint gives the Howlers a mission. They must destroy a convoy carrying V2 parts through Normandy, and Flint will accompany them. According to the book...
So, I'm actually going to cut in there, because I noticed something. This person's done incredibly detailed on some parts of the summary, and completely omitted the most important element. Over those several days, Flint was riding the Howlers and making them all actually conform to military standards.
Yeah, making them shave,
wear their proper uniforms all the time. Like, they're actually having to shape up, and skipping that part is going to mean that the rest of the story makes no sense.
So here's another quote from Flint. According to the book, the perfect commanding officer sets an example for his men. So Fury's like, oh god. Flint wonders aloud why Sawyer never went along on missions. Colonel Parker overhears him and sets him straight. Sawyer almost single-handedly paved the way for the invasion of North Africa. Sawyer is a demolitions expert, and Sawyer and the Howling Commandos are one of the most decorated fighting units in the entire command. After Sawyer was wounded, he began training other commandos. So ever since Sawyer was wounded, they're saying that he's been training other commandos and has stayed out of the missions. A submarine drops Flint and the squad in a rubber raft off the Normandy coast. They scale a cliff. The lights on the convoy are visible in the distance. Flint orders them to start planting mines in the road, just like the manual says. A German scout plane flies over, and the observer sees something shining in the road. Flint's captain bars on his helmet, which the team had tried to tell him to take off because they noticed the light was shining off.
But it's important, it's standard uniform protocol to always have your rank insignia clearly visible.
On the back of your helmet, yes. Although they never did it in metal, they always did it with white paint.
Yeah.
Just
now, he had the actual metal pin that they give for, like, the dress uniform on his uniform shirt.
Oh, dear. Man.
The pilot warns the convoy. The observer fires at the Commandos. Fury manages to pull Flint out of the line of fire, but Flint's head falls on a rock and he's unconscious. Fury...
Sorry.
I can't help but feel that this might be a censored version of the comic, and originally Fury just accidentally knocked him out so they could do his fucking job.
Fury takes over. Duggan takes down the scout plane with a grenade. Cohen fires, of course, Izzy fires prone at the lead truck and hits the gas tank. The truck explodes and rolls, blocking the road. Do we need this much detail? I don't know.
Yeah.
Percy
One thing I
Pinkerton,
like that I'm going to mention, it's in my mind. They know how stupid it was to have Duggan take down a plane with a grenade. So they actually bothered to explain that it was only possible because the plane was flying low and Duggan was a strong man and could throw a grenade way further than a normal person. So they actually are trying to address some of the wacky shit they pull in this.
Yeah, that pilot was a dum-dum.
Oh, fuck you, Dan.
So, Bill, you want to do the podcast alone next week?
You guys are going to miss me when I'm dead, so fuck you.
Well, that got dark.
You haven't died in this long. I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, my luck, I'll probably outlive both of you, for fuck's sakes.
Probably.
Jesus Christ. That's just what I need.
Percy Pinkerton drops...
Come on, Ryan, you can do it.
Percy Pinkerton drops from a tree onto the second truck and surprises the gunner.
Oh, is Percy a Peckerton detective?
He then steers the truck into the first one. Manelli puts on a German uniform and directs the subsequent drivers to detour, right over the cliff. Nice detour. The squad prepares to go back.
We've already established that these trucks have headlights.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
The squad prepares to go back down the cliff and meet the PT boat that will pick them up. Flint regains consciousness just as a stray German soldier stumbles across him. Jones blows his horn, which distracts the soldiers long enough for Fury to knock him out. Shut up, Dan.
Well, I'm just saying. They each to their own, okay? We all have a particular kink.
The noise, though, has drawn 3 more soldiers. Flint throws a rock and knocks out one of them, then
He was
punches
blowing
out
him
the
and he
other
got horny.
Fury, Jones, and Flint follow the others down the cliff, where the squad ditch their gear and swim out to sea. The boat, without slowing down, scoops them out of the water with a sort of lasso on a sort of divot. Back at base, the Howlers anticipate their punishment from Flint. Sawyer returns and meets Flint, who is unshaven and casually dressed. He says, "The time I spent with your Howlers was the most profitable period of my Army career. I learned something I never realized before. You can't always go by the book." The end.
Wow, that's bad.
I agree. I didn't like this one.
I guess I get to be the outlier. It reads a whole lot better than that summary is. This is actually my favorite Sergeant Fury I've read so far.
That's funny because this is my least favorite.
Yeah, I mean, the story was predictable. From the moment they established Flint, you knew exactly how this was going to play out.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, I went in knowing that he was going to be a hard-ass by-the-book commander, and then the Howlers were going to go on a mission with him. Because, of course, he can't stay at base because then you won't have character growth. And he'll fuck things up by doing things by the book, and they'll have to save him. And then he'll realize that, no, they were actually right, and then he'll end up congratulating them instead of being mad at them, and that's how the story's going to end. But that being said, every element of this was actually quite fun.
You know what? I'm going to join Bill in this because the plot may have been pretty hackneyed and predictable. You know, it's the usual spit and polish commander gets shot at, turns new leaf, and he becomes one of them. You know, I mean, we've seen that story 1,000 times in comic books, but this was a little more realistic to, what it meant to be a commando than hunting down Hitler in his bathroom, sort of crap that they normally do. You know,
it was in ways more realistic, while
breaking
also
in
being so far-fetched that
or something.
Yeah.
No, it was a little more like a war story than it was just some weird, wishful thinking,
There was no
fantasy
death
shit.
ray. They weren't capturing an actual important historic figure.
Yeah. It's like, it was them being commandos. And that's a bit of a nice break because their stories were getting a little silly.
Yeah, I was seriously You weren't here when we were doing our end of the month stuff last week, but we were both talking about maybe dropping the Howlers from our reading or from our hypothetical purchase list. And,
you were talking about Howlers, I was talking about Fantastic Four.
You also, counting this one, were thinking about dropping it.
Oh, yes, counting this one, because I had already read it.
Yeah, but honestly, this one saved them for at least another month in my collection, because I had a lot of fun reading this. Way more than I expected since you had been so down on it.
I gave it a 2.
I gave it a 4, so it equals out to a normal 3 on it.
You know what? I'm going to give it a 3 simply because it's a little more realistic than usual for Howling Commandos.
That was the first one I've given less than a 3.
One of the few I've ever given a 3. But
I think I gave the first issue a 3.
Yeah. I think it deserves it simply because it's not stupid. It's silly, but it really isn't some sort of fan fiction military story.
Yeah, and honestly, without the silliness, I don't think the Howlers work.
Granted.
They're a very pulpy title, and if they like the first issue, they tried to go gritty and kind of serious, and it didn't work. So you need to have that pulp of them taking on overwhelming odds and surviving without a scratch through sheer audacity. But I mean, that stuff can work. Indiana Jones worked 3 times before it started to stop working.
If you say so. I personally will always consider Temple of Doom to be the worst of the 4.
It's not good, but it's better than Crystal Skull.
I'd say they're both equally crap.
I haven't watched any of them, so I can't comment.
Sorry, what?
Of course you haven't.
You haven't watched Indiana Jones?
No, I'm pretty sure
We're going to have
serious?
to get a collection of, like, plastic DVDs together for them and scratch out the information and just write in magic marker directed by Rob Zombie on all of them and send them to them.
Yeah, drop by your place with this box and beat you over the head with it.
Rob Zombie's Halloween. Rob Zombie's Halloween
Indiana
2.
Jones.
Rob Zombie's Indiana Jones. Rob Zombie's Schindler's List. Rob Zombie's Saving Private Ryan.
Rob Zombie's Pitch Black. Yeah. Wow. Ryan, are you serious? You're not serious. Like,
I am serious.
That's like a badge. Watching Indiana Jones is like a badge of honor for anybody.
I blew my
who's a
dad's
dork.
mind telling him this one at one time too.
I can believe it. I mean, this is actually kind of. You probably shouldn't have mentioned this.
Well, I was
on
like,
the
Oh, wow.
podcast.
I've actually found a comment that's too mean for me.
Ooh. Tell me, I'll say it.
This is a non-recording comment.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say I don't know why my dad was surprised he wasn't around to show me it.
No, but like seriously, I don't know what to say.
Dan, at a loss for words is not common.
I know genuinely, I'm honestly surprised that for somebody who is a fan of comics and science fiction and all this stuff, you're going to sit there and tell us you've never seen Indiana Jones. It's a prerequisite. It's like one of your scout badges for being a geek. Okay.
Hey, to be fair, it's not like I'm enamored in the science fiction genre as a whole. I'm more just I love Star Wars. There's plenty of science fiction I have not endeavored into.
You've seen Pitch Black, though, I assume.
No.
Somehow Moira is the only
fuck's
one who
sake.
has seen my mean comment.
Hold on, I'm just going
And I
over
don't
to it
think she
now.
knows the
I
context.
didn't think you were gonna say. Oh,
I put it in the group chat.
Oh, you gotta hold on. I gotta see what Bill said. What? Oh. You're a disappointment. You're just a disappointment. And the mean comment is... Can Dan say it out loud?
I'm leaving that up to Ryan if they want to share that one or not.
I mean it's not true, so I don't care.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Bill just said that's why my dad wasn't around. I'll say. Anyways, let's move on to number 12 of Sergeant Fury. I think.
I don't know. I think his dad's to blame for the Rob Zombie films, so...
No, that was
Maybe.
all me.
This is what happens when you're left without parental guidance.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe it is his fault, actually.
So one of the films I'm going to recommend to you is Indiana Jones and the Monster House. Oh, I just need a magic marker to rewrite the title on the box, but... Oh yeah, Moira's up blowing up people. I think she's playing Destiny or something.
Anyway,
Let's move on to the next...
let's move on to
Sergeant
Sergeant
Fury.
Fury and Atomic Commandos number 12.
Yay!
This one is titled "When a Howler Turns Traitor," and Bill predicted the arc of the story for this one last week.
Really?
I think
of
I hit
course-
it pretty well.
Yeah, you're pretty spot on. Stanley, of course, right, and we keep Dick Ayers around, which makes sense since I really enjoyed the art. George Russo's on inks. Jack
To me, it seemed like he got way better in this issue. The arc was kind of last week. The arc was kind of last issue, but this one he really got into
This
the swing
one,
of drawing the Howler.
he
when
shined
it wasn't
there wasn't
buried by a
Shine
million
like a diamond.
text boxes.
I
Yeah.
found Palamines at the store. Ooh.
Jack Kirby and Chick Stone on the cover.
No
Sam,
comment at all?
Sam Rosenhan letters.
I mean,
September.
you got to do what you got to do to have a pal of yours.
You fucking twat. What the hell was that?
I've never had one either, so I have no opinion.
Oh, they're really good.
I'm sure they are. They're candy, and I'm fat.
Smeghead.
Oh, piece of candy. September 1964 release date, 20-page story. We lost a page here. And off I go with this one.
That's why there were so many speech balloons. They had to make up for that page.
Yeah.
In an English pub, the Howling Commandos hear Axis Sally, a Nazi propagandist, on the radio urging Allied soldiers of German and Italian ancestry to desert. Percy Pinkerton hears an incoming buzz bomb. Everyone takes shelter until the bomb drops and the area is secure. Back at base, Captain Sawyer has a new mission for Sergeant Fury. Locate the buzz bomb launcher and mark it for a bomber mission that will reach the area at 0300 the next morning.
Because aerial reconnaissance wouldn't do.
They already They actually covered that. They tried aerial reconnaissance and they couldn't find it.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's good. That's
yeah,
good.
they
That's
talk
fair.
about
Yeah,
G2
okay.
or whatever in the comic, but
G2.
the
Army
Army
intelligence from World War II.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Commandos board a glider and land in France, some 2 miles from the last launch site. When the Commandos reach the site, there is only a railroad track.
Railroad.
A Gestapo officer, meanwhile, learns that the glider was spotted and sends a unit to capture its passengers. Fury and his men follow the tracks to a depot, where part of the German unit pins them down. Izzy plants a bomb in an alley and lures the group past it as it explodes. The other Germans, including the tank, show up. Gabe uses his bugle to sound a Nazi retreat. The others fall upon the confused soldiers. Fury, alone with Dino, tells them to pretend to desert, so that he can learn the location of the launcher. A reluctant Dino waves a white flag. The German officer in charge recognizes Dino from his movies and gladly accepts his surrender. The other Howlers, who aren't in on the plan, see it all. Fury uses their dismay to motivate them to tackle the tank. Reb is Reb Relson? I think, yeah, it's Reb that does this. Reb circles behind the tank and shoots the crew. The Howlers take over the tank and use it to make their getaway. I'm not used to their last names because they use their first names in the comic, mostly.
Oh, I suppose.
Astuka attacks the tank. Fury shoots it down but loses his balance and falls off the tank.
Okay.
Keep rolling, he yells, and that's an order. At the local SS office, awaiting transport to Berlin, Dino learns that the launcher is on a railroad flat car, which explains why no one has pinpointed its location. He slams together the heads of the two officers, puts on a German uniform, and takes a car. Following the railroad... Fuck, I'm not good with R's, so this is killing me. Railroad...
You knew this was a railroad-based comic when you assigned it to yourself, too.
Yeah, but I take Sergeant Fury automatically, so I don't really think of it. He catches the launcher and jumps from the car to the train. With only minutes to go, he remembers his radio transmitter. He activates it, plants it on the car, and leaps to safety. The bombers follow his signal and destroy the train. Fury, now in a prisoner of war camp, laments that he's the only one who can clear Dino of desertion. Dino, still in a German uniform, orders a pilot to take him to England. Anti-aircraft fire hits the plane when it reaches the coast, and Dino bails out. The shore patrol takes him into custody. Yes, Bill?
Not just a German uniform. He's wearing an SS officer's uniform.
He is, but it left that out earlier. I kind of just kept going. The shore patrol takes him into custody.
He had enough problems with railroad. You're going to give him SS as well?
I took that for myself.
Okay.
Back at base, Dino gets thrown into the stockade. Luckily, Fury succeeds in a desperate escape from the camp and makes it home in time to save Dino from a firing squad. The end.
Wow. Riveting.
Oh,
Story.
it includes the bonus pinup the reason they lost a page on the Marvel Wiki. That's cool.
Because this was a story that could do it one less page. This one actually needed the extra page. They should have stuck it in last month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I like this story. It's not quite as good for me as the last one. It had several major plot holes, but it was still pretty fun. The biggest one being that Dino's entire trial went by, and no one talked to the fucking bomber pilots that tracked in on his signal to destroy the guns. Or the missile launchers. Like, that should have at least got him imprisoned until they could clear his name, instead of just straight up executed the fact that, he completed the mission.
We needed the drama.
Who has a heat pump?
Not me.
I can hear a fan turn on.
So can I.
It's probably my...
air conditioning?
No, it's the fucking furnace.
Oh, okay.
Kicking in.
Okay.
But yeah, I gave this one a 4. I really like this one, especially after the last one and not enjoying it as much.
I gave it a 3.
It's predictable.
Predictable isn't a bad thing. I liked the last one. It was just as predictable.
I suppose that's fair. I predict that all the comics I'm going to review this week are going to be shite.
That's a fair prediction.
That doesn't make them good.
Yeah. The bigger problem I had with this one was the first half was like a Claremont comic without the interestingness. It was super wordy to the point that some of the panels you could barely see what was in the art because it was just completely filled with speech balloons.
Yeah, it was kind of bad.
Yeah, and the other problem was there were just a couple of glaring plot holes in the, like I said, with the bomber pilots and so. It felt like they went too fast to executing Dino. Even if they didn't believe a single thing to clear him, they would have wanted to send him to Army Intelligence and quiz the fuck out of him and see what they could get in intel on what the Germans were up to before they killed him. They wouldn't just
and then upload his intelligence to a computer and then in the 2000s he can come back and bomb them. Oh, sorry, different comic.
I thought you were going for a Captain America Winter Soldier reference there.
I was. Yeah.
But, that stuff bothered me enough that I couldn't go higher than 3, but this was still a fine Sergeant Fury.
Fair enough.
Meh.
Well, let's move on to Tales to Astonish, issue number 61, the A story, titled Now Walks the Android. Stan Lee is
Proof
on
that they
writing
hate
duties. Me. And we have art by Steve Ditko and Joe. Oh, that's... Did Joe work on this?
Yeah, Joe helped.
He helped. Yeah, he helped
pencil it because they were so rushed.
Yeah, that's true. George Russos was on inks. Jack Kirby and Chick Stone on cover. Sam Rosen on letters. September 1964 release date, 14-page story. They talk about in the comic on the page, I don't know if it's included in your synopsis, but they talk about how there was supposed to be a new artist on this with this issue, but Dick Ayers was going to do it or whatever, but he ran out of time, so...
Yeah, they ran into deadline issues on getting the script together, and so...
Okay.
Had to rush out everything over a weekend, pretty much.
Well, as usual, I want to start with the cover. I can't figure out which ones are the bad guys. It's so hard to tell.
It's the guy on the top of the other story. Oh, wait, he's the protagonist. I'm really confused now.
Yeah, it's just, if only there was some way for Marvel to color code them in a way that would give you an idea of who the bad guys are. Sigh. Yeah, okay, enough.
No wonder Hulk was so confusing.
You can see how rushed they were. They didn't even color the background on the Giant Man panel on the cover.
What? Which one are you on? I'm on Taylor. Oh, yeah. No, okay, synopsis for Now Walks the Android. You ready? You're going to have to brace yourself for this, guys, because this could be pretty intense. Okay, putting on a show for hospitalized children, Giant Man and Wasp are interrupted by police sirens. Egghead is making a daring escape from the law. Escaping into the sewers and seeking refuge in his secret hideout, he tests out a new device that allows lifeless objects to obey his commands. Zombie take over the world plot. I like it. I'm into this.
That would be better than what we get.
Hold on. Dude, don't spoil it. So mean. He steals a store mannequin and brings it back to his hideout. He coats it in a special wax compound that will allow him to control it with his mind and makes it grow in size. Egghead begins his plot to pit his android against Giant Man. Oh no. What are we going to do? The next day, Giant Man and Wasp return home in their new converti car. Converti car?
Oh, it doesn't look like a car at all. It's basically like an egg that he flies around in.
Okay.
I don't think it shows up again.
Oh, thank God. And they check their mail. They find an invitation from a TV studio to create a show based on their adventures. What fucking adventures? They've done nothing.
Oh, Christ, it does show up again.
We both looked.
I don't know about you two. I really don't. The Giant Man wants nothing to do with it, but the Wasp talks him into going with her. Flying to the address, Giant Man begins to get suspicious. However, they walk in anyway, because they're idiots. And find themselves trapped in the building with Egghead's android. Egghead
We are
tells
now 2 pages into the story.
Oh, dear God.
The rest of this will cover the rest of the story.
Okay.
Presumably, this is the part they got scripted in time.
Okay. Egghead tells the heroes that they cannot escape unless they defeat the android. Wow, that's original and unique and unlike any other comic from Marvel we've ever read. They also have under an hour to do so because of runtime for the TV show. The building will run out of air and they will suffocate. Egghead has the upper hand until Giant Man realizes that Egghead experiences the same sensations as the android. Now, how the fuck did he figure that out?
The magic of we filled 10 pages with Giant Man losing to this android. Now we need to end it in 2.
Oh, okay. He spins the android around until Egghead grows dizzy. He forces Egghead to free them before stopping, and after they are free, they direct the android to walk into the nearby harbor. The end.
Yeah. I told you it was bad.
It's just lame. It's just more
There
of the-
is
more of
literally
the
10
same from
pages
these
of
guys.
Giant Man fighting the android for nothing.
It's god awful.
Because I wasn't just randomly pulling those numbers out for comedy. It literally was, up to that point, was the first 2 pages of that story. And then the last 2 sentences was the last 12.
Yeah. It's just more of the same, really.
Yeah, nothing happens in this story.
This is
1
like
star.
every Fantastic Four and Thor and freaking
Wait
Hulk
until
and
next week.
Iron
Fucking
Man.
Giant Man rips off Plant Man. It's ridiculous.
And then the
Oh,
week
dear.
after, or the issue after, we get a villain who hits overuse status on his second appearance just by being in a Giant Man story.
Really?
Yeah, Giant Man's in a death spiral now.
But yeah,
They're
fuck
just
the
throwing
story.
shit at the wall, trying to make Giant Man work so that the comic doesn't get canceled, and none of it's working. I think by the
Okay.
end, we're going to get like 3 or 4 artists on it as they try different people's art to see who people like. They're going to make a couple of drastic changes to Giant Man's status quo that then Avengers is going to have to try to fix once the book gets canceled. And they end up fixing it by just kicking Giant Man off the team and rebooting him when they bring him back.
Yeah.
I also give this 1 star. This sucked.
It's really no different from half the other stuff we've covered. So I'm not sure why you think it's so terrible compared to some of the other crap we've dealt with.
Because
Come on.
in the 3 years we've gone through so far in covering Marvel, most of the other books have advanced their storytelling somewhat.
If you say so.
Just having an entertaining... And this fight isn't even entertaining. But just having a fight fill like 8 pages isn't enough anymore.
The problem is,
Like it ever was enough.
Hank Pym sucks. He's not an entertaining.
Wow.
He's not an entertaining protagonist. He is a fucking asshole. And why
They
the fuck?
rank-
Yeah,
They
rapey
raised
asshole.
sexism up to 11 in this one, too.
Yeah, a rapey
Lost
asshole.
characterization.
Yeah, he looks like one of those in this fucking comic, the way he's drawn by Steve Ditko.
Steve does not put out his best art for that one.
His Wasp is fine, but like his Hank is scary.
Yeah. I think I sent the one where
You did.
the picture where he drew his eyes way too big.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent that. I saw that. Yeah.
Anyways, that
It's
about sums
boring.
up that comic.
Yeah, boring, tedious, the usual.
Well, let's move on to our first Thor story as we go Journey into Mystery number 110, the A story. And this one's titled Every Hand Against Him. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby here. We have Chuck Stone back and Kirby up on inks. Then we have them both on the cover. R.D. Simic on letters, September 1964 release date, and a 16-page story. And off Dan goes.
Okay, and again, there's just no way to tell who the bad guys are in these covers. Like I say, they need to color code the bad guys.
There
They
there
really
is.
do.
They're both wearing green.
And purple. Green and purple seem to be bad guy colors. Holy crap, this is a big one. For Thor.
This is
Yeah.
a lot happens in this issue.
Okay, let's hope so. Okay, Every Hand Against Him. It's part one of a two-part story. While patrolling the city, Thor gets the ominous feeling that evil's waiting for an appropriate time to strike, as opposed to every other comic story that we've had to deal with. Little knowing that Loki has once again traveled to Earth, seeking revenge on the Thunder God. This whole imprisoned Loki crap is getting tedious. If they're going to imprison him, they actually got to imprison him.
Odin is almost as bad a jailkeeper as he is a father.
Morale. Yeah. No, that was my phone. Disguising himself as a mortal, Loki pays the bail for both Cobra and Mr. Hyde. Meanwhile, Thor returns to his mortal guise of Dr. Donald Blake and resumes his daily routine of tending to his patients. Little suspecting his three most sinister foes are organizing together. That's so unfair. In a hotel room, Loki reveals his true form to Mr. Hyde and the Cobra and orders them to defeat Thor on his behalf, using his magic to double their strength. Loki sends the two goons out to kidnap Jane Foster, telling them that this will aid in defeating Thor. The duo tear a path to Donald Blake's office, where Cobra snatches Jane Foster, prompting Blake to change into Thor and pursue his opponent. He finds the Cobra with Mr. Hyde and is about to attack when Hyde threatens to harm Jane. The two villains escape with Jane Foster in a cab, telling Thor to return to that street corner in 24 hours to surrender his hammer, as opposed to just surrendering it right now, if he wants to see Foster alive. Meanwhile, Loki returns and directs Odin's attention to Earth, where he watches Thor allow the Cobra and Hyde to escape. Angered that his son has once again allowed his love for a mortal to interfere with his duties, Odin banishes Thor from Asgard. Again. Realizing that Loki has something to do with the events, Thor travels to Asgard and fights his way past Heimdall and the entire Asgardian army to confront Loki. He forces the whereabouts of Hyde and Cobra from Loki, when suddenly Odin enters the room and scolds Thor to disobey him. Thor apologizes and explains the situation. He asks Odin's help. Odin to help him. Good Lord, seem to have bad case of the Ryans. He asks Odin to help him save Jane by transporting him to her location. Odin does so, suspending his judgment over Thor's insubordination until his mission is accomplished. Arriving at Mr. Hyde and Cobra's hideout, he finds that the entire house is decked with numerous traps. Thor fights his way through them and gets into a battle with the now twice as strong Hyde and Cobra. At the battle's climax, Mr. Hyde causes an explosion that he believes finally kills Thor and leaves his body behind. But Thor is merely stunned and revives shortly after and continues the search for Jane. He finds her in another room and finds that she's been mortally wounded in the explosion. Finally, thank God. While Thor is distraught that Jane will soon die, Mr. Hyde is on his way to the very room with the Cobra to prove that he finally defeated Thor. In a last attempt to keep Jane alive, Thor uses his hammer to create a time warp around the building to keep her alive. Just
by
as he's
flying
found
backwards
by
around
his
the
two
planet
foes.
over and over again to speed up time, or to reverse time.
To reverse time, yeah. A la Superman.
That's all I could think when I was reading that, even though he uses a different method.
Yeah, okay.
I like this one quite a bit.
It's better than you would expect from like our third run-in with Hyde and Cobra in like 6 months.
I thought this one kind of... I mean, again, it's a case of the first part of the two-parter being pretty good setup, but we'll see the next issue doesn't quite live up to this one, in my opinion.
If Jane doesn't die, I'm going to be incredibly disappointed.
Well,
I'm sorry, Dan.
But, I thought this one had its mistakes, and I like... So I'll let you talk in a sec, Bill, sorry. I like that... I like this comic, I think, out of all the Marvel comics so far, does the love interest the best, in my opinion. I like that Thor's a little simp for Jane.
Yeah. They're definitely... The thing that's making the Thor good nowadays is it's starting to be a larger story. Like this... I disagree with you on the second part, because the interesting part of the second part isn't Thor. But,
okay.
I like, which we'll get to when I cover it, but for the first part, the first part for me was just, it was a fine comic, it was a big fight, there was some drama that Thor's not actually going to lose his hammer, it's 1964, so Jane's not going to die.
Oh, thanks, Bill.
Spoiler, oh my god.
I do like the fact that Thor is only once a month.
Savage.
It's true.
But yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. Would you give it, Ryan?
I gave it 4. I really enjoyed this one.
I gave it a pass.
Of course you did.
Well, I guess let's move right on to the second part of this two-parter with the A story of issue 111, The Power of the Thunder God. The Power of the Thunder God.
Thunder God.
Everything is the same here for the team, including the letters done by Artie Simic. October 1964 release date, a 16-page story, and this one is for Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Alright, so, continuing the story from last issue, Thor battles Mr. Hyde and the Cobra, who have him and a mortally wounded Jane Foster trapped. Thor's time is running out, as he cannot maintain the time warp that he created to prolong Foster's life, and he must defeat the 2 foes who have had their strength doubled by Loki. Just in case you're not reading this immediately after the other one.
Yeah.
Thor
in case you waited a month for it to come out.
Yes. Thor escapes from his 2 foes with the unconscious Foster, and breaking through the many traps in the house, he finds a safe place to keep Jane's body until he can defeat his foes. Meanwhile, the whole display is being watched by Odin, who feels that he should not interfere. Balder, hearing this, offers to play a ballad for the troubled Odin and sings a song about Odin's own rebellious youth and a forbidden romance. Loki stops the song. Back on Earth, Thor finds Mr. Hyde and the Cobra and battles them again. During the battle...
Did you just call him Thor?
Shut up.
Okay, just checking.
Ryan struggles with Railroad, I struggle with TH.
I struggle with THs too. I struggle with a lot of things, but...
Oh, God. Oh, God. That's just... Be happy we're live, buddy. Be happy we're live.
That's a sentence that just sums things up, isn't it?
It really does.
Anyways, since I can struggle with people interrupting me while I'm trying to summarize a fucking comic...
Never happened.
No, of course not. Back on Earth, Thor finds Mr. Hyde and the Cobra and battles them again. During the battle, Thor redirects some of the Cobra's poison pellets back at him, causing him to seek refuge in the air ducts and smashes Mr. Hyde through a wall. While in Asgard, Odin is moved enough by Thor's battle to get involved and instructs Loki to see Heimdall the healer, who can create a potion that would cure Jane Foster. Knowing that Loki will not do this, the warriors of Asgard stop him. Balder takes Odin's written request and travels to find Heimdall. On his way, he travels across the swamps of endless flame and is confronted by the Phantom of Asgard. On Earth, Mr. Hyde and Thor duke it out. Thor pursues Mr. Hyde into one of his own traps, a ray beam that knocks Hyde out. Thor sends an electrical surge through the house, the shock forcing the Cobra out of the vents weakened enough for Thor to capture. Knowing that he cannot maintain the time warp, Thor returns to Jane's unconscious body and laments over her condition. Meanwhile, back in Asgard, Balder destroys the Phantom with his sword, travels across the forest of the Eternal Nightmare Plants. I don't think it was the Eternal Nightmare Plants. I think they got that from the Endless Flame thing. Crosses the Valley of Swords and survives the Valley of Avalanches to finally arrive at the home of Heimdall the Healer and present Odin's request. On Earth, Thor finally decides to face the impending death of his love and dissipates the time warp. At that moment, Balder's sword falls from the sky and lands in the room with the potion for Jane attached. Thor gives the potion to her, curing her of her fatal injuries. Balder's sword then returns to its owner. With Jane healed and revived, Thor thanks Odin for his aid and carries the sleeping girl away from the house. And that's the end of it.
Yay! Not as good as the last.
See, I disagree with that because I think the important part of that story is not the Thor stuff, which is just your average fight, but rather that they're finally starting to tell stories about Asgard.
I like the
because
fact it's a little more involved.
Half of this comic was goings on in Asgard.
Yeah, and it was a little more involved. It was like there was more going on.
I found the Asgard stuff boring besides the fucking besides Balder tricking Odin.
God help us if Rob Zombie ever writes a comic, Bill. We'll never hear the end of it. We really won't.
No.
I hate you both. Sorry,
anyway, I gave this one also. I was also Googling that. I was stalling for time while I was Googling did Rob Zombie comic. Because I think he did.
We're both too similar. Oh, Infrax, among the living. Rob Zombie presents the haunted world of El Super Beasto. What the hell? It's Rob Zombie Spook Show International? What is this shit? This is Amazon stuff. What's going on? He's done little paperbacks, I guess. It looks like. They look like shit. Okay, I'm leaving this tab.
The Adventures of El Super Beasto was an actual comic.
Wow.
Anyways,
and he also co-wrote a Bigfoot comic. Oh, no, that is El Super Beasto. But yeah, no, this was another 3-star, and it's the start of the more interesting stuff they start doing with Thor, because this is where it shifts away from just generic another superhero, and they really start building out the world of Asgard. Thor is one of the first characters that didn't start with a big supporting cast to get a good supporting cast.
Like Iron Man.
Even more than Iron Man. Iron Man really just has Pepper and Happy at this point. But we're pretty close to the debut of the Warriors 3.
Nice.
Sif's coming up pretty soon. We've already got Balder, we've got Odin, we've got Heimdall, we've got Loki, who half the time is not a villain in the future.
Hey, we technically got Sif once it's just the Sif we actually know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Sif just means wife. It's not actually her name.
Oh. The more you know.
In the comics, it's her name because Stan does not notice. But in the edits, Sif just means wife.
Didn't know that.
can't remember what her actual name is because it's been a long time since I've read them. But it doesn't really matter for the point of this because in the comics her name is Sif.
Anyways, I gave this one a 3 also, just to clear that up. But anyways, let's move on to A Tales of Asgard, I guess.
Why?
The first one.
Do we really need to?
Issue 110B story. We're moving past the hate coming from Dan right now. This one's titled The Defeat of Odin. Stanley, of course, writing. Got art by Jack Kirby. Inks by Vincent Coletta. Artie Simic letters. And this is a 5-page story.
And somehow they got 3 paragraphs out of it.
Huh.
What?
They're short paragraphs.
Okay.
Following the death of the defiant Rampok the Rebel. Don't worry if you don't know that name. He doesn't appear in any comic that I've found evidence of. His son, Prince Revek, he who will never show up again either, has taken up his kingdom's rebellion against Asgard, and this has caused Odin and his Asgardian warriors to mount a battle against the insubordinate kingdom. While the Asgardians prepare for battle, Rivek's men lack confidence in their that their new leader has the strength to carry them into battle. When the Asgardians make the first move, the battlefield's flaming geysers erupt, threatening their steeds. Odin calls for his troops to retreat as Rivek's army charges into battle. Odin's retreat causes Rivek's men to hail him as a fearless leader. Later, Thor asks Odin why he called his troops to retreat. Odin explains that rebellion is always good for the blood of his people, so he wanted to give Rivek the credibility he needed to maintain the status quo. The end, and yes, that story makes no fucking sense.
It really doesn't, does it?
No, I have not figured out why a ruler would want people to be rebellious against him.
Yeah.
This comic fucked me up because it kind of sucked, but I also kind of liked the message they were trying to go for.
I enjoyed reading it despite this. Like, it still got a 3-star from me because it was fun, but the more I think about it, the more it hurts my head trying to figure out Stan's logic.
Stop thinking about it.
I think that's what happened. The first time I read it, ticked off that I read it, gave it 3 stars, and moved on and never thought about it again. This time I'm like, I'm going to have to talk about this, so I'm actually going to think about this a bit. And the more I think about it, the more I hate it.
Yeah, I agree with your reading, though. I just kind of gave it a 3 and moved on. It doesn't really, this story kind of it was whatever, but it was the message is somehow alright. Let's just move right into our last one here with the B story of issue 111, which is titled The Secret of Sigurd. And this one has the exact same team, and this is also 5 pages, and Bill will finish this off for us.
We're up to 4 whole paragraphs for this one.
Holy crap, for 5 pages?
Yeah, they're working this one a bit.
Okay.
When returning from a special mission for Odin, Loki convinces Thor and Balder to follow him through a shortcut that travels through the forest of the mysterious Sigurd, which eventually leads them into a confrontation with Sigurd himself, who challenges the young gods to a duel, claiming he can defeat them all with his secret power. Thor attacks Sigurd, smashing his opponent's battle axe with his hammer. However, every time Thor manages to knock Sigurd down, he gets back up stronger than ever. Eventually, Balder remembers the key to Sigurd's constantly increasing strength. Sigurd is the son of the earth sprites, and his strength is increased every time he touches the ground. Knowing the secret to Sigurd's power, Thor catches his hammer under Sigurd's belt and then flings his opponent into the sky, where he will then be stranded on a deserted asteroid. With their foe defeated, the gods continue their trek home. Loki is disappointed that Thor was not defeated. So despite that having 4 paragraphs to describe a 5-page story, they missed the most important part, which is that Loki eggs Sigurd into the battle and then is like, Thor, you fight him. And just kind of stands behind him.
Yeah, he eggs Sigurd in the battle and eggs Thor into fighting him. It's a whole... And Baldur just kind of stands there like, oh, Loki, you little fucker.
Baldur is like half the time a complete idiot.
Yeah.
Half the time he's really smart, like when he figured out that Loki was not going to get the cure for Jane. And half the time he's just a complete moron. Takes them a while to get a consistent personality for him. But this is a fine little 5-page action story. And I'm actually a little disappointed that Sigurd never shows up again. Because they could have done something interesting with him with more space.
Yeah. I thought this one was a lot more fun than the last, to be honest.
This definitely was more fun than the last. And the good news is, next month, they get back to doing good stuff with Tales of Asgard.
Nice.
I think next month is the start of Loki's story.
I thought this was genuinely good, though. I gave this 4. I thought this was fun for 5 pages.
It was decent for a 5-page story, but, like, if you didn't read it, does it really matter?
Well, no, but I mean, the character work is really good.
Oh yeah, but I'm comparing it to next month when we get Loki's origin.
Well, I haven't gotten this.
Fair enough.
I have nothing to say about it. It's just it exists.
It's a comic that exists that we read.
Literally.
I mean, that's really all you expect from a 5-page story.
To a point, yes, but I guess, and this is a horrible paint to make because I'm making a slightly questionable equivalence here. Archie can give you a story in 4 pages.
Yeah,
they do it 100 times, an issue.
Good point.
So why can't Marvel do that?
Archie superiority, you're right there.
No,
well, Archie has an established supporting cast.
I do know what you mean. One of the
big differences, and I'm not saying this to try to jump to Marvel's defense because you're right.
No,
but the big difference is like Archie. You come in, you know who Jughead is, you know who Moose is, you know who
that's
Reggie is.
Yeah.
So they don't have to waste any time establishing characterization for these people. They can just throw you directly into the story and it works.
Granted,
and.
I'm just
Thor's,
to me.
Yeah, Thor's supporting cast does not exist yet.
I don't know that it ever
exists,
realistically does.
We don't have Baldur's brave. That's what we know about him. Loki's an asshole.
And the Doctor is hiding behind, huge sort of mini bosses that you got to go through to get to him, which makes no fucking sense to me at all. I can save your life, but you got to risk your life to get that help.
I mean,
why is he not in Asgard with a little office? Okay, come on.
I mean, that's an old trope that high fantasy that the mystic healer is off somewhere and you have to go on a quest to get to them.
It's stupid. Sorry,
yes.
It's stupid.
It's stupid, but it's still a complete trope. It didn't bother me that existed in this form, given that every high fantasy story that's ever been told involves that trope.
That fucking god-awful mini-quest horse shit. It's like playing Borderlands.
You're lucky your daughter isn't on this podcast.
And she's not going to listen. She's not going to listen to the podcast. So I'll get
That's it. It's time I make a clip.
You do
I
not
antagonized
make a clip
her
out of
enough
that,
earlier today by saying that I think I hate Borderlands.
Yeah, I saw that. Are you mad?
I know. I was like,
you do
if
realize
she kills
she's homicidal,
me, I don't have to
right?
finish that Inferno DLC.
Ooh, you do realize she's homicidal, right? She's my child.
Yes, I said if she kills me, I don't have to finish it.
Okay.
So it's kind of win-win.
Okay. But seriously, this mini quest shit is just getting tedious. Right? They do it in so many games, and it's just irritating as crap.
Why bad news for the start of Submariner?
Oh, God. What, the fact that Submariner exists? Because that's bad enough news for me.
Well, you don't like his little wings?
Yeah, the winged feet, that alone is enough to make me wonder what the hell is going on. I still have not summoned up enough gumption to sit through Wakanda Forever. I have not been able to convince myself to do it.
I've heard it's really good.
I heard it's absolute crap. It's actually worse than the original Black Panther.
I've not heard that.
Which is a tedious, mundane film at best. Yeah, so... Ugh. Yeah, I have heard nothing good about Wakanda Forever from anybody.
I've heard mostly good.
The same people that like Rings of Power and Rob Zombie films, right?
No.
Just asking. It's a fair question.
Ryan didn't like Rings of Power because they haven't
watched
seen it.
Of course he hasn't seen it.
I haven't watched
He spends his nights
original
watching
Lord
the
of the Rings.
Disney Plus, okay? He avoids proper entertainment like the plague.
See, I'm only going to counteract that because it'll be more of a burial.
Okay.
I know they spend their evenings watching terrible 80s wrestling.
I don't know. Excuse you, I'm in 91.
Oh, 90s wrestling, much better. That's
Yeah,
when the
gotta
Ultimate
get
Warrior
that
became the Ultimate Warrior.
Got to get that El Gigante versus one-man gang into you.
That's where I'm going after this podcast. Like,
Bill, I think as the last of my days approaches, I will look back at my life and say, well, at least I managed to help convince Ryan to watch Wednesday. That'll be one of the great accomplishments of my existence.
waiting for
You
season
know, if you're
2,
worried
buddy.
about the last of your days approaching, you should start reading Giant Man with us. It'll make
Fuck
the
that
time
noise.
seem much longer, and you welcome the embrace of death when it comes.
Fuck that noise. I'm sorry, Giant Man is just pointless.
Speaking of which, why don't you tell us what we've got next week, Ryan?
I was waiting for the opportunity. We're going to start off with, speaking of Giant Man, Tales to Astonish, issue number 62, where it's Giant Man versus Wasp. I'm not going to go into that at all because it's got to be a surprise. Tales.
Really?
I don't remember that issue, so it will surprise me probably with how terrible it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if that is bad.
Tales of Suspense, issue number 60, the A story, where Tony
Stop with the spoilers. Just give us titles, dude.
suspected of murder.
Oh, for God's sake, you just had to finish that, didn't you?
No, that is the title.
That
of
is the title.
story.
This is your fault. I was going to make it more interesting.
I meant
Tales
the
of
comic titles, not
That
the
is the
story
name of the comic.
Oh.
Tales of Suspense, stories suspected of murder.
No, the comic title, not the story title.
Tales of
Don't-
You
Suspense,
don't
issue
want to
number
know that the
60.
B stories called
B
The
story.
Army of Assassins Strike?
Don't give people an excuse not to watch, okay? They've already got
Journey-
enough of reasons.
Journey of the Mystery, number 112 A story, where Thor battles Hulk. You got to come back for that, right? The B
That's
story of that
actually pretty
issue
good.
is the coming of Loki. Bill was right. It is Loki next time.
Oh my
and,
God, what a great idea. Bring Loki into this.
Then we're going to end off with Fantastic Four number 32, which includes apparently the death of a hero.
That is an important Fantastic Four, actually.
Please let it be Reed. Probably, I hate him more actually than I hate Spider-Man.
I'm sorry, it is not Raid.
I know
Thanks,
who it
that's
is,
great.
I'm pretty sure.
The person who
but-
dies does not show up again until Captain America Patriot in 2010.
Bucky? Bucky?
No, he shows up in 06.
Oh,
It's like 04, 05, I think. He shows up.
Yeah, I don't remember for sure when Winter Soldier debuts.
I want to say 05. Because Civil War's in 06. So. But yeah, well, that's the lineup for next week. We might have Dan, we might not. God, I hope he needs to see that Giant Man issue. But anyway,
God, I hope
No
I'm
one
working.
needs to see that Giant Man issue.
You tell me when it's scheduled, and I'll tell you when I'm working. But you have to go first.
I don't know about that one. But we'll see.
Gee, I'm sure I'm working Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, guys. Sorry. Wow.
Dan's gonna request that block of days to be taken up Thursday
You know, I'm
through
kind
Saturday.
of busy next weekend. Why don't we record on Sunday?
No, I'll be working on Sunday, too. I'm sure of it. I'm absolutely certain.
Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, and if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, even share if you would like to. We're also available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and of course Spotify. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, tell us.
Don't you
why,
say it. Don't you dare.
It.
Tell us why the battle with Sigurd was your favorite.
Thank you.
Sigurd.
I knew you were going to go for Giant Man if I didn't say something.
I wanted to, but I wanted to also divert your expectations. So, So anyway, guys,
Divert or subvert?
whatever. Subvert. I don't care. But English is hard. I don't speak this language.
Words
Anyway,
hard.
We're 41 episodes into an English language podcast.
42, excuse you. Anyway, guys, we'll see you all in the next episode. Let's get the fuck out of here. Peace out.
Yeah.
See you guys.